Hey everybody, this is a little bit late, sorry. I'm going to do a combination here on choosing and integrating your sources and then annotated bibliography, because that second one really doesn't take very long to explain. Okay, well, you've already used some sources in your previous essays, sometimes more than one source, and you have integrated direct quotes or paraphrase or summary into your papers. So you're going to do the same thing with the research paper. It's just that research is a topic that you choose, and then you get to choose your own backup sources as well. And of course, because they're documented within the essay, they should also be documented completely in the works cited. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's say we have the topic of medical marijuana. Now you might be tempted to go right to Google because it seems easy. So I'll type it in here. Let's see how many returns. Oh, only 135 million. No, yeah, don't do that. In fact, don't even go with the first one because you haven't even specified yet what you want to do with this topic. Like, are you talking about the laws about it in the US, or people you know who have used it for medical reasons, or reasons not to use it? See, we don't even have a refined topic yet, so that's another issue. Okay, I can try to narrow it down a bit. I'm going to say laws in California. See if that reduces the number of results. It is still 13 million. That's an awful lot. Okay, here's one thing I could do. I'm going to put a domain up here. I'm going to say .edu, which means all the results are going to come from a college or university. $92 million? Okay, that didn't really help either. Actually, it didn't even do that right. But I do recommend the .edu domain most of the time for sources, because that way you could at least get something that you know is going to be professional and credible. The problem with going to a .com is that it is a commercial site, and they're probably selling something, or it could be very biased. The other one you might try is a .org, like this one here, the second one. They can be biased, but they're usually better than a .com as these choices go. Okay, it seems pretty professional. Okay, so somebody's running this, although I think they need to update it a bit. At least it's not a cheesy, poor-looking website run by someone who doesn't know what they're doing. However, there's a better way. Go directly to the Mount SAC library site, mountsac.edu/library/, and let's go to Research Help and go down to Research Guides. Because there are better ways to find sources than Google. Okay, what do I want? All right. Well, if you're looking up medical marijuana, it could come under different kinds of categories. but we still need to refine this more. Let's go to database basics. Okay, we're going to get closer and closer here. I'm going to go to the A to Z database list down here. There it is. And they've got all kinds of databases here on everything you can think of, from anatomy to law to child development to education and more. I don't think there's going to be a specific one just on marijuana, but that could show up under legal or medical or science or botany maybe. Okay, I'm just going to go to Medline and see if I can get anything there. Oh, I have to log in. All right, fine. Okay, it's running a search through EBSCOhost, which handles a whole bunch of databases. All right, and it's going to find us books, journals, and more. A journal is an academic periodical. All right, let's look up medical marijuana legalization. Okay, maybe that'll help. Thought it would fill in. Okay. Let's see what we can get. Probably a lot. Okay, 33. That's at least more manageable than 32 million or 92 million, whatever it was. And I'm going to have just, let's narrow it down a little. Refine the results. Yeah. Okay. English only and I think 2,000 to 220 seems reasonable for the time. I'm going to look at all these. It says most of the articles are in academic journals. That's a good source. So they have it specific to Poland, to youth in Oregon, non-medical use. Does it increase completed suicide? Nursing students' knowledge and attitudes about it. Cannabis as an alternative for opioids for chronic pain. Okay, these are good because they're coming directly from professionals in the field. They're experts, and these have already been peer reviewed. So you don't have to do the additional work of finding the credentials of somebody that you found through Google, because the work's already been done for you here. Okay, let's see. This one, I'm just going to look at the first one. Okay, and if you don't want to read the whole thing, you can look at the abstract first. It's a little summary, and it lets you know if you really want to continue reading the whole thing. The abstract tells you what they are covering in it. It's like a little summary that you read ahead of time. Okay, can we find the whole thing? Yeah, I want the full text. Okay, there it is. And it has a lot of references with it, so it's got its own works cited list. That's for the credentials. It's pretty recent, from 2019. Bear in mind, when you read something like this, it's going to have a lot of medicine and science, and you're not going to understand all the terminology. So in that case, you might want to try maybe something from a magazine or book that's written more for the lay people like us who don't speak all the medical jargon. But at least it's right here, and it's already available. You could download it, you can cite it. Yeah, let's look at that one, because citing can be an issue for students at times. Okay, we're not doing APA, I want MLA. I want MLA 8th edition, there it is. Okay, and this is exactly what your works cited would look like. All you'd have to do is copy and paste that. That's nice, then you don't have to write it out manually. You can just copy it right into your paper. And you can export it to other things if you needed to. So that's very handy. That's going to save you some time. All right. So my main point here is that you should choose your sources carefully and make sure to get the good ones, the professional, credible ones, because that affects the strength of your paper. It needs to be a good source, not an outdated one, not one that's poorly written by someone who is not an expert in the field or just doesn't even know what they're talking about. Also, in the library, it says ask us here. You can chat with the librarian anytime. Just type your message in and you'll get an answer. So that's nice. They can help you with sources and all kinds of other issues too. That's what they do, is they help students with research. Okay, then I think the trickier part for many students is actually integrating the sources into the paper. So with this next page, I'm gonna send it to you. I've already saved it here, so I'm going to send that to people. This is from an EDU, a university. Can I make this bigger? Yeah. Okay. All right. Integrating sources helps you to bolster your point with the credibility of the source, identify others' opinions, theories, and explanations, present assertions of fact that are open to dispute, present statistics, establish your ethos as a good, reliable scholar, and let readers know where to find info on your topic. As you know, you can summarize, paraphrase, or quote. You should summarize and paraphrase most often instead of directly quoting all the time. Putting it in your own words shows that you have a good understanding. Now, when can you use a direct quote? Well, when the point is made so clearly and concisely that it cannot be expressed any more clearly and concisely. Or a certain phrase or sentence in the source is very vivid or striking, so it's memorable. Or the passage is difficult, dense, or rich and needs close analysis and should be produced for the reader. Or a claim you're making is such that the doubting reader will want to hear exactly what the source said. Especially if you're criticizing or disagreeing with your source, your reader wants to make sure that you're not misrepresenting a source. Okay, for the summaries and paraphrases, after you've written it into your own words, it should become a coherent part of your paper. And you don't include your own ideas or commentary in the body of the summary or paraphrase. You can introduce it, and then you can make some comments about it, but always document it because the ideas came from someone else. So you still have to document it even though it's not a direct quote. I'm skipping through the exercises. You could look at those on your own later. Okay, for direct quote, always have a good reason to use a direct quote. Don't let quotes speak for themselves. Don't let them overwhelm the paper and drown you out. The paper is supposed to be about your ideas. And always provide an analysis of the quote. You've got to let us know why it's significant. Yes, and please don't use quotes as padding. Don't use them to take up space and take up words. Very long quotes require long explanations, and if you use too many, it's like it's just filler. It's just taking up space. You could also take parts of it out and integrate the quote smoothly into your paper. It doesn't need to be the whole sentence. Also, avoid an awkward intro to a quote. Like saying, in so-and-so's book on page 65, she states, that's very awkward. There are better ways to say it. You can try different verbs too, like she writes, says, states, observes, suggests, remarks, or protests, replies, claims, and so on. And you can combine quotes with a paraphrase or analysis. In her critique of soap operas, Tanya Modlewski argues that some view television as a, quote, a vast wasteland, quote, and soap operas as, quote, the least nourishing spot in the desert, quote, page number. Or you can just use a few words of a quote for effect. As William Neal suggests, some humans have a, quote, moral deafness, quote, which is never punctured no matter what the moral treatment, page number. And you do not need to quote or cite info that is common knowledge, like the earth revolves around the sun, or excessive consumption of alcohol can impair your judgment. That's common knowledge. People know that, so you don't have to prove it. If you've got short quotes, then they get the double quotation marks, and they should have that parenthetical citation. Here's one right here. Here's another one. It's another way to do it. You know, there are slight variations on it. If it's a long one, more than 4 lines, then it has to be set off from the text, introduced with a sentence and a colon, and you indent 10 spaces, double space the lines, and don't use quotation marks. So here's what the student wrote. This is the full sentence and the colon, and this is the block quote. Seems like it ought to be more than 4 lines. And you may remember this from a while ago. You can use ellipses to indicate when you omitted unnecessary words from a direct quote. But the grammar still makes sense. The syntax is still okay, even with some missing words. So there's more than one way to do a quote. And the last thing is, it's pretty straightforward, the annotated bibliography. This is like it's a works cited, but it provides a little extra information about each source at the end of the citation. Okay, going back to my favorite Purdue Writing Lab, Purdue OWL. Okay. Go back to the start of that. Okay. Annotated bibliography. All right. An annotation is a summary and/or evaluation. So an annotated bibliography includes a summary and/or evaluation of each of the sources. To go to the next part for the breakdown and then the samples. I'll send you this part too, this link. Save it. All right. So these are the works cited. This is what they can look like. This is not the annotation yet. This one is a book. This one is an academic journal. And this one, it was on CNN. I guess it was an article or possibly a comment. Now we can see the samples. Alrighty. Okay, here's a citation. It's a book by Anne Lamott, publisher and year. So that's the work cited. And now, here is the annotation. It's a few short paragraphs. So there's a summary, an evaluation of the text, and a reflection on its applicability to their research, respectively, in that order. The summary and the analysis and how it is applicable. Saving that one. Okay. It'll make more sense if you can just read it, and you know what? Yours doesn't need to be this long. It could just be a short paragraph. Even if it's one paragraph, that's okay. So that's going to come after your works cited for each source that you use in your research paper. Okay, that's it for this lesson. And now I will get this uploaded and send you some links.